So here I am in London's Old Compton Street. Today is the 27th anniversary of the bombings that killed 3 people and left many others wounded. And it's 10 past 6, and now we're having a little procession going from the Admiral Duncan, where the bombing happened, down to St. Anne's Church, which is very close by, where there's going to be a little remembrance service.
So now we're just arriving at St. Anne's Church, which is an Anglican church, and Father Simon is the rector here.
And it's once again an honour to welcome you to St. Anne's Gardens for the annual Act of Remembrance on this, the 27th anniversary of the bombing of the Admiral Duncan pub in 1999. It was an evening as beautiful as this one, until it was scarred by the hatred and homophobia of one individual. But we've come together this evening to remember 3 precious individuals: Andrea Dykes, Nick Moore and John Light, who lost their lives this night. Together remembering Cinder's David Morley, who survived the bombing only to be killed in a later attack. At the outset, I want to express my appreciation to Mark Healy, who has organised this event once again, and to the Diversity Choir for setting such a beautiful tone with their opening song, Caritas Abundant. If it was unfamiliar to you, that may be because it was written nearly 900 years ago by Abbess Hildegard of Bingen. Yes, we're probably more used to Gloria Gaynor on a night like this, but you've got a bit of culture this evening. But the words are particularly appropriate because they are: love and charity abound in everything, from the lowest depths to the highest. On an evening when we affirm that love is stronger than hate, and that the horrific events of this night in 1999 were designed to tear the community apart, but are instead still bringing us together 27 years on, we should find hope in the abundance of love, charity, kindness, and basic human decency that surrounds us. Some things are stronger even than the noise of bikes. But that's of course not to suggest that things couldn't be better. Though the motives behind it are yet to be confirmed, the recent attack on the LGBT nightclub in Milton Keynes last week, the stabbing of 2 members of the Jewish community in Golders Green just yesterday, and the prejudice repeatedly faced by members of the trans community remind us that all minority communities continue to face hostility and discrimination, and to varying degrees live with the possibility of being a target of hatred that majority communities do not have to worry about. Soho shares with the people of Brixton and Brick Lane the experience of being regarded as other and targeted because of their sexuality, their skin colour, race or religion. There is hatred still, but love abounds, and it is love for all people that we affirm and seek to share this evening. So thank you for being here. Thank you, family members, friends, people who are here on that night and helped other people, members of our emergency services on whom we still rely for our well-being today. And particular thanks to Honorary Alderman Ian Adams for being here to represent the Lord Mayor of Westminster, and to whom I'm going to hand over now.
Of the City of Westminster, I'd like to express my deepest sympathies to everyone impacted by those truly atrocious events back in April 30th, 1999. Survivors, family, loved ones, the whole community. And of course we mourn the devastating losses of Andrea, Nick and John. As Simon has reminded us, the hatred that we saw spill out onto the streets of Old Compton Street hasn't gone away, but here we're unified by, as I said, love and forgiveness. And that said, sadly, 27 years on, I think it's credible to acknowledge that our city and our community and our society still remains divided to this very day. But I'm sure I join all of you when I say we should not be complacent in addressing head-on, as we're doing tonight, that hatred. And we should not turn a blind eye to those issues that still surround us. Such violence in the name of prejudice is unfortunately, as I said, not a thing of the past. It remains an undeniable reality as others try to sow seeds of evil and malice across our community and beyond. But we have not allowed those seeds to grow, and we will never allow those seeds to grow. We will continue to come here in solidarity with other members of the LGBTQ community, and of course as we remember those in the Bengali and black communities who were also impacted by those terrible events. We'll continue to work together to build a society that is genuinely and proactively inclusive, I very much hope, to build a future where people can live as they wish to live, and importantly, love as they wish to love. I want to thank all of you who have joined us tonight for playing a part in the creation of that future. Always remember, as the memorial plaque in this garden says, goodness is stronger than evil. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you very much. We're now going to lay down the 3 lanterns and place flowers in memory of those who died on this night, and also memory of the 3 communities affected by those acts of hatred: the people of Brick Lane, Brixton and Soho.
So my first poem is called Fearless. Bullets or bombs may destroy the lives of friends, lovers, husbands or wives, but it doesn't destroy the love that we nourish and share in our community. We're near, we're far, we're LGBT, standing here together, proud and free. Our love is wider than the ocean. Our love is deeper than the sea. Homophobia is a hateful word born of ignorance and fear. Our love is older than the hills. It was then, there, and here. We will not be diminished by hatred, ignorance, or fear. We send our love around the world. We're LGBT queer.
We come now to the minute's silence. So let us hold in our hearts the living and departed, the injured and bereaved, those whose memory we cherish, and all whom we love and hold dear tonight. case you're wondering, that was Concord by Benjamin Britten. It would not be the annual act of remembrance without the annual act of poetic perfection, brought to us by Terry once again. Terry, who has been writing poetry and crocheting like crazy, especially for tonight.
There's an uneasy feeling that's hard to describe. Menacing, threatening, an uncomfortable vibe. The narrative, the discourse that makes the news. Wealthy far-right wingers expressing their views. Preying on insecurities of those who fear, the unconventional and the unfamiliar. Misinformation, demonization, blatant lies, wrapped up in self-righteous patriotic disguise. Countries, courts and states change the rules every day, and not all the rulings go our way. Our uphill struggle must continue for the sake of us all, not just LGBTQ. For until everyone can safely and joyfully say, "This is me," then none of us can claim to be free. Entitled and famous names carry weight, using power and popularity to muddy the debate. The self-serving elite are a formidable foe. They target minorities and they say no to human rights across the board, and individuality is ignored. They dictate how identity is defined and self-determination is undermined. When Andrea, Nick and John were murdered in Soho, it was the last century, 27 years ago, and still, after all these years later, our campaign for equality seems to be greater. We've seen this before, looking for scapegoats to blame, hate used for political gain. Indifference or turning a blind eye means sleepwalking into oppression and then saying, how? Why? Ignorance is not an excuse to sleepwalk into a world of abuse. Complacency cannot mitigate sleepwalking into a world of bigotry and hate. Andrea, Nick, John and Cinders died because of this. For their sake, for your sake, for my sake, for everyone's sake, please stay awake.